Good morning, guys. Hope you had an awesome weekend. Bitcoin, a relief rally or more dump? And I want to be looking at a couple of trends where I believe our next big trade should be. If it tickles your fancy, you know what to do. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, share with a friend. I'm going to try and go through this slow and as detailed as possible so that you guys can make the best informed decisions. Nothing I do and say here is financial advice. I'm a trader, just sharing my thoughts, leaving it up to you guys, simple as that. Okay, here we've got Bitcoin daily time frame, and the big key takeaway here on the daily time frame is that there's absolutely, or the weekly time frame, weekly time frame, that we want to look for a reason to say that is over. And the one big important thing that I like to use to kind of define myself to say that this is over is the week thereafter. So look at it like this, or the candle thereafter. Look at it like this. After you have a massive sell-off, there's two scenarios of massive sell-off. Price went from 96 to 77 there. That's a crazy week, guys. Price went from 62 to 48. That's a crazy week in Bitcoin's life. The key here is to understand what we want to know is whether price is going to go lower. I'm going to show you the point and figure chart. We're going to look at a couple of stuff that's going to give you ideas of targets or where it's going to go. We're going to be looking at the CME gaps as well. But the main takeaway that I want for this week is to, from a weekly point of view, is to be able to sit on your hands. Just sit on your hands and wait for the following. Because the week after the sell-off gives us typically clues to what we can expect going forward. Now, there's two scenarios. Both these have different scenarios. It's a coincidence that they're so close by, but hey, I'll take it. When you have a liquidation week like we had, a crazy week, if the candle thereafter trades above the closing of that mass liquidation event, that typically signals strength. In this case, this was an uptrend, so it's strength for the bulls. And how you would normally navigate that is to say that, okay, I want to be buying, I want to be bullish, but I don't want to FOMO in on a relief rally or a rally, because that's how retail normally burns. So they wait until it looks safe, and that's normally when it isn't. So I'll wait for price to test the lows. It's not going to look and feel safe. And that means go to the half of that liquidation event. Statistically, that's your bounce point. Okay, so to sum up, when we have a massive liquidation and the week thereafter closes strong, above the closing point of that candle, that normally says buy the demand zone test so that we can see more upside. Here's the other side of it. If you have a liquidation event like this, but the week thereafter closes within the wick of that candle, typically you would say price will fill the wick and some. Then you have to wait a little bit longer to buy. This week, we have to wait. There's 6 days and 14 hours left before we know whether we're going to be turning around and screaming relief rally, or whether we're going to go and fill this wick and lower still. Now, you have an idea, you have a good foundation of why you need to be sitting on your hands and waiting. Let's now look at the levels and the targets for what we want to do when we want to act. The chart that I'm going to show you is this one. And it's Bitcoin, it's my Bitcoin halving chart. For those that are not familiar with the chart, there's a few nuances to this chart. I'll quickly go through that. First thing is, I like to look at this chart on the monthly time frame. It might feel slow and boring if you're new to trading. But in all fairness, what this does is it gives you a good bias analysis. So, my friend, if you want to be bullish, understand and know what the monthly, weekly wants to do. If you want to be bearish, it's the same thing. It has to support those levels. While we're on this topic, I would love to hear your thoughts. I mean, just be honest. What is your gut saying? Are you guys bullish? If you're bullish, let me know. Let's say bullish to 85K, question mark. Let me know. Bullish to 85K, yes or no? I would love to hear you guys. Even if you're not watching live and you're commenting on the video later, let me know. I would love to hear where you guys' thoughts are at. It will also assist me to give you content that will better be tailored for the need that you have. Okay? And then in addition to this, if there's any altcoin worth its salt that needs to be charted, let me know. At the end of the stream, if there's time, I will definitely chart that for you guys real quick. Back to our Bitcoin chart. Now, Bitcoin halving chart. The important thing here is that the 4-year cycle isn't dead. People saying it's dead. I say the trend's your friend until it bends. And if anything, this chart proves that the 4-year cycle wasn't dead. Let's take away the RSI and let's have a look at this 4-year cycle real quick. Bitcoin's inception to its first halving. I'm not going to dive into what happens in the halving. But once we cross that halving in the previous high, around the 38.2 and the 618% of the time it takes for the next halving to occur is when Bitcoin tops and drops. The fact that Bitcoin has a structure to it, we can predict when the next halving is going to be. This means we can use the anticipation of the next halving to kind of lay a target in when the high is going to be. Now, if you look at when we crossed halving 2 to halving 3, we do that same time analysis again. There's my levels, 38.2, 618. From this point to that point, all that it is. Again, around the 38.2, we topped. 618, we bottomed. We did this as well between halving 3 and 4. 38, we topped. 618, we bottomed. And it's around this time that I use this chart to navigate. Because now we've established a trend for me. I use the same chart to get me out at 125K. You guys know this. You can verify this. And I'm expecting the same chart to give me a low at around August of this year. The only tricky thing here is, when and how low it will, not the when, how low it will go. Now, monthly time frame, what we do have, guys, and this is a real interesting chart. If we look at Bitcoin on the monthly time frame, we have strong bearish divergence. Strong bearish divergence is when the RSI makes a lower low as price makes a higher high, a lower high, and price makes a higher high. Excuse me. Yeah. There you have it. Price makes a higher high, RSI makes a lower high. And I treat this as a bullish signal, always on the basis that what needs to happen is price needs to stay above that first pivot, meaning this is your first pivot here, the pivot at 91 on the RSI, and your second pivot is at 73 on the RSI, clearly a lower high. At 91 on the RSI, Bitcoin was at 57, and when the RSI was at 72, Bitcoin was at 126, nearest makes no difference. Clearly the higher high level. Price will go and test that first pivot, at 56. When it does that, normally from that point onwards, should Bitcoin want to remain bullish, that would be a really good area for the buy zone. This takes me to this chart. Now, this chart is an interesting one. This is the bias for Bitcoin being bullish. If we have a look at the move in the wave set as price has migrated to this area, you can clearly see that there's a hidden bullish divergence around the 57 level. RSI clearly is making a lower low. Price made a higher low. And statistically, these areas where divergence occurs, if it wants to continue Bitcoin to the upside, we will bounce between these levels. Now, these FIB levels are derived from just that, looking at where statistically the most possible or the most plausible area for the bounce would be. This then means if you want to try and trade that in the hope that 57 holds, your analysis tells you that this then becomes your buy the dip zone for that. But now clearly, guys, when we move over to a daily time frame, and let's just do that real quick, Bitcoin daily time frame, don't just buy blindly. Wait for the daily to at least give you some signs of a bottom. We do have a massive sell-off pivot, a good one at 63,000 for Bitcoin, which means that price will potentially, in order for us to think that we're done retracing, go make a lower low and test that $57,000 level, which is a significant support area for me. Let's just make that line support, sorry guys. And at that stage, the RSI should not go make a lower low. And if it takes 3-4 weeks to do this, better. If it does it this week, I'll be worried, because that's been too fast. It needs some accumulation around this area. And that's the play. So you know where to levels are, you know where the bullishness needs to be. You understand that there is a reason for relief rally at minimum. Even if you're bearish, the move was very fast, there should be a relief rally. And where can that relief rally then go? Well, we've got the CME gap that gives us nice hints. Statistically, they do get filled within the first week, most of the time. If not, the percentage that they will get filled becomes even higher. 98% of them do get filled over time. The bigger question is just when. But looking at this entire move again, from $98,000 low, if this is the 5-wave impulse that's going to drive price down, boom, 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 that would be the area for the 4 before we have that 5, which means that we could be pushing up in a 3-wave correction, ABC, 1, 2, 3. And the nice thing is, if we look at this from a measured move approach, meaning the distance or the gains from the 3 to the A, if you put that down to wherever the low would be, this means that we could potentially still go as low as $66,000, maybe bounce on those wicks, and then relief rally ourselves to 80,000. And it would still then be bearish. It would actually be in the sweet spot for being bearish, because the hope is at that stage that your RSI will then be higher, giving you the hidden bearish divergence that we want to see in price to confirm this bearish trend to the downside. So conclusion, guys, if you're bearish, you have to be bullish. If you're bullish, you have to be bullish. In all things considered from the 4-hour time frame, after this massive sell-off, the next logical direction is to the upside. Now, smaller time frames, we can dive into that. That's in the Discord, where we can trade other biases and other thoughts, but this is the most logical one. Now, let's quickly have a look at your comments, see what we have. Nope, not bullish. Louis says it's not bullish, bounces and flat later. The longer it remains flat, the better for us. And the chart that we can use would be our volatility chart, your point and figure chart. This is derived from Wyckoff theory. Point and figure basically tells you, instead of looking at price versus time to give you a normal candle, we're looking at volatility, the amount Bitcoin moves versus time, to give you a volatility chart. And if Bitcoin doesn't move a lot, time stands still. So you could have a situation where, and you can clearly see this on this chart, the distance it took for days 7 to 8 of February versus 8 to 9 is much shorter. So we had less volatility, so time stood still for longer, as opposed to there. And if you think about, look at distance it took from the 6th. Let's see if you can, you guys can see this on your screen. But in any case, let's just do it like this. I'll do it like this. This is day 6, starts there. Day 7 starts there. Day 8 starts there. Day 9 starts there. So you can see that there was a lot more volatility during that day, giving you more price action versus the current days, which just cements in from the 4-hour time frame where we're finding ourselves now, we're range bound. And it means that we need to be bullish at the bottom of the range, say 67 to 66, or maybe 65. This would be a good area for the buy to try and drive price back to the range highs to give us this relief rally. And the alternative would be from a trend, considering maybe we need to go lower still. The move isn't over, the bloodbath isn't done. when we do go back up and we test a 45-degree angle, which is typically your trending angle on a point and figure chart, you use that as a short to trade short. Now, Buddy Pro indicator does to do the hard work for you. It overrides candles, giving you momentum and trend and structure, and it clearly labels them on the screen for you guys. Trend's already bearish, momentum is bearish, structure is bearish. So the argument is the better trade right this moment is to short Bitcoin as opposed to try and long this. So wait for the lower shot. So 2 time frames. If you're a daily swing larger time frame player, your bias is to buy the dip. We're in a buy zone, meaning every time the market does have these little sell-offs, you want to try and look to buy, understanding where you want to take it. And if you're a trend trader, a day trader, your bias is that I understand we can correct to the upside, but until we have a clear signal or indication that that's going to be the case, I have to trade with the momentum, meaning I need to be trading short. And there you have it. There's a Bitcoin analysis. Now, I accept to you guys, I want to do the same for gold and silver and Dow Jones. So if you have a look at where gold is at, gold saw a nice upside. This is again from the 6th when Bitcoin started finding a floor. Bitcoin now has broken and started moving lateral. Gold is not there just yet. And my anticipation is that we could see a little bit of a range-bound gold. And the reason for that is simple. We need gold from a TA point of view to do the same as Bitcoin. Let me just load a gold chart for you guys. It needs to reset the time frames to sync them up so that we can have harmony into a specific area. So you can see that although the strategy tells us that we can still trade, let's move that over real quick. We can still trade or hold long-term gold swing longs. Trading wise, it's a little bit of a mixed bag right now, and that means that it needs time. Something that doesn't need time right now is the Dow Jones or the US 30. Now you can trade this on Prime XBT, guys. You can use the link in the video description. It gives you exposure to not just crypto, Prime XBT, but also gives you exposure to these indices, commodities like gold and silver. As we're maturing as traders, I mean, I was a crypto purist, just trading crypto, legacy is dead and boring. At the end of the day, there's volatility, there's money to be had there. And if there's an easier, better trend, why struggle and fight something that's range bound when you can trade something that's clearly trending to the upside? Okay, now guys, I always say, no financial advice. Past performances does not give you an indication of what the future will hold. And although this is looking bullish right now, just like Bitcoin, dump one candle can change the outlook. Now let me explain to you how, where the risk lies, and what to do. Now, looking at the Dow Jones, the US 30, the key here with the Buddy Pro indicator is to have a multi-time frame harmony within a trend, meaning the 4-hour, which is this top right screen, and the 1 hour should both be in harmony. What does it mean being in harmony? Simple. If you look at the 4-hour analysis, and what I'll do is I'll just make the trade guide bigger for you guys for the screen. It clearly says that the trend is bullish, the momentum is bullish, and the structure analysis says that we're above support. Support being 49,400. Nearest makes no difference. 49,500. This then makes, from where we're at right now, you're by the dip territory. How does this look any different from any of the other scenarios where we had the same divergence? Let's bring in our friend the RSI. There you had higher high. What does the price do? If it wants to remain strong or it wants to continue on higher, when it comes back down, it stays above that divergence pivot. Just like we did there. Okay, let me just draw it to the right point there. There's the pivot. It stays above it. We stayed above it. There was moments where it shook around, but this shows strength. Now, if we take the same thing, we look at the 1 hour, you can clearly see that the 1 hour is on a move. So you don't want to be chasing. You understand there's strength, there's momentum, everything is bullish. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that your lower time frame buys ends up giving you a wave, and the way that or the completion of a wave. So the way that the easiest way to visualize this for you guys on the chart is we want to let one go and wait for two to retrace. And how the Buddy Pro will do that is it will create an orange colorization on the candle to tell you we're in an orange. The strategy analyst will still remain bullish. This is the key here. Very simple stuff, actually. Will still remain bullish, but the trend will retrace. When the trend resumes blue, because the higher time frame, the 4-hour and the 1-hour, week, daily, the weekly, everything points to upside. Once that happens, wherever that will be, you go long and you trade the meat of the move, where the big money is made, and not try and hope for bottoms and tops. Simple as that. There you have it. Right. Welcome from India, my friend. Thanks for joining me live on the stream. This is out of my normal time zone. There's about 82 people joining in live. Guys, thanks so much. Share the content. Let's help grow the channel. We'll greatly appreciate that. Now, if you open a PrimeXBT account using my partner link, what I will do is I'll give you access to the Buddy indicator so that you can use it for an entire month on the basis that you fund at least with $1,000 and take one trade. Simple as that. And if you do that, all you need to do is just reach out to me in my Discord. Links in the video description, guys. There you have it. Right, now that we have sponsorship out of the way, let's have a look at a few other altcoins, because gold and silver, like I say, needs to have its mind made up. Bitcoin at this stage is in the middle, it's in a disarray, but there's a couple of alts that I'm still thinking, leaning towards having some sort of strength going forward. And the one that really stands out for me is Hyperliquid. I spoke to you guys about it last week. In the light of everything dropping like a rock, what do we have? Hyperliquid holding onto the $30 level. I'm going to switch to Hyperliquid on the 4-hour time frame, and then let's have a look at that. Now, the important thing here is, just like the US30, this fell back. The idea was that we need to stay above our pivot and then consolidate around this area. All that this means is because we've now fallen below this range and we didn't see the momentum and continuation, Hyperliquid will probably test the mid-range, which is where it's at right now, and then start creating a trend within range. This is the key here. So now you can and you're allowed to use a trend line now, because basically you need to have a trend within range before you go long. Holding onto 30, staying above the midpoint, good signs. Hyperliquid, go give me a trend within range. And then I will use my Buddy indicator to grab in the momentum and try and trade this for higher. If it falls below this range, this then will become an amazing coin to short. Because look at this. Let's take away let's make the Buddy just a little bit smaller, the text. There's a massive imbalance at 23. And taking a short from there all the way down, 30% play, 10x that's a 300% play. A lot of gains to be had there if you were to do that. Okay. So attentions, it's a tough one. We need to go through, we need to understand that the following is happening. Big picture, Bitcoin needs to stay above 57. Big picture wise. Weekly time frame, what we have is the potential for hidden bullish divergence. Let me just load the weekly chart. But we have to sit on our hands and wait for the weekly to close strong. Needs to close above 70. If it can't, the idea really becomes bad, because then we'll fill this wick and some. You'll probably get it at a better rate. While all of that then needs to sort itself out, we know that there's certain targets to the upside from Bitcoin's CME Gap that suggest if we do find a floor right now, relief rally could take us to 80. Fingers crossed. Where at that stage there will be hidden bearish divergence on the chart. And that will then become a really good area for you to swing short again. Think of it like this. the bigger play. I went short. I sold my Bitcoin at 125, but I went short at 116 because I needed a bear trend to put leverage behind the move. Once that is done, the move is done. Holding on to that occurring daily fees just doesn't make sense. Wait for the next move. 98, I went short again. 89, I went short again. Rode the additional move to the downside. Holding on to something while it just takes money from you doesn't make sense. Now, there's a lot of brush strokes on this. Let's clean this up a little bit so that this chart doesn't look like I am the chart artist, guys. That's my Twitter handle. For that reason, I love to draw on the chart. It means that what needs to happen here is the same kind of consolidation. How long it will take, I don't know. But at that stage, we will probably fill that gap and continue down lower still. Okay, that's the best bet. There you have it, guys. Thanks so much for taking the time. I've shared a lot with you guys, giving you some food for thought regarding trends, where we are, what needs to happen, and what we need to look out for. How to invalidate bullish or bearish strong divergence, as well as where the hidden bullish or bearish divergence lives that we need for continuation for a trend. So at this stage, all that you need to do is sit in your hands and wait for the market to give us a big picture direction. Don't try and chase it, but don't leave, because now is when the big gains can occur. And if you want to be looking at some strong alts, Hyperliquid does look okay, but it's on the basis that we need to hold this $30 level, and I won't act on it until I have a clear trend formed. The opportunities never runs out, guys. It's just waiting for the right one. That's the key. You have a lovely day. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back again tomorrow. And just as a closing comment, for those that are really into this, I have a few more lifetime memberships left in my Discord, and I do have the discount on the yearly subscription sitting at around 870. The guys are grabbing them up, buying them up as they go. So make sure to take advantage of that, because you get this and a hell of a lot more in the private groups. Have a lovely day. Cheers, everybody.